You are listening to the MS Power User Podcast, which is the podcast for the Microsoft enthusiast and power user. We discuss the latest news from mspoweruser.com about Microsoft, Windows, and much, much more. My name is Andrew Bennett, although if I were to read off the script we have here, my name would be Vernon Smith, who is not doing the intro today. So, Vernon, I know how you're doing, but let's tell the listeners.
Hi, Andy. Hello, listeners. Yeah, correct. I'm not doing the intro today, and that is just fine. I did not have a voice yesterday, and so what you're hearing is actually pretty good progress. So I'm going to speak a little bit less, hopefully a lot less, this episode, and Andy will do just fine without my substantial contribution. Usually Andy does a great job anyway. You always do, Andy.
Thanks.
So let's fire it up with app of the week.
I think that first we might want to mention that. Well, first off, happy Thanksgiving to everyone, because we are recording this on Wednesday night before it happens. You know, on the day this goes up, because it should still be going up at the regular time. You guys will be dealing with crazy Black Friday stuff. So enjoy this little message from the past.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Yeah, now moving on to the first order of business, the app of the week. This week's app of the week is Kodi, a media player that was formerly known as XBMC, which is short for Xbox Media Center. Originally developed many years ago for the original Xbox, it's gone on to become a much bigger product, spawning iterations on just about any platform I can think of. It's an insanely good media player that is focused on home theater enthusiasts, although really I have found myself using it if I just had my Xbox controller nearby and wanted to kick back on my PC and check it out. And it's so nice because it not only is it just a nice media player on its own that is very good if you want to use a remote as opposed to your mouse and keyboard, it's insanely customizable. If you don't like the look of it, you can change it. If you don't like certain functionality or wish more functionality was there, you can add it on. There's hundreds, maybe even thousands of add-ons out there for it. Plenty of skins to check out. And it's a very, very good thing. In fact, it is it was something that Microsoft reached out to the Kodi team to get it in the Windows Store through Project Centennial, and that was one of the first things they tested it on. And it's there, and it is great. Only available for PC, of course, and I don't believe an Xbox version is in the works, as of course this is a Project Centennial app. Though I'm not sure if there is any other kind out there for it. Whatever. Anyways, it is very, very good, and you can either just simply search for Kodi, Kodi, in the Windows Store to find it, or you can go to the show notes, where we'll have a nice little box where you can go and check it out. As always, you can send an email to me. That's andrew@mspoweruser.com if you want to have another app featured on the show, be it your own, someone else's, for Windows Phone or Windows PC or even Xbox. If you think it should be featured, just send me a link. Again, that's andrew@mspoweruser.com, as always. Now, moving on to today's news, the first topic we have is a pretty big one. And Microsoft is planning to bring x86 emulation for ARM64 on Windows 10 with Redstone 3. Not Redstone 2, Redstone 3. So this is something that's a little far off. And emulation is, in some places, considered a bit of a dirty word, because people think of, say, emulating games where you have a significant loss of performance at times. Well, this is definitely not that. Anyway, it's just as a footnote. Anyways, this was discovered by Walking Cat on Twitter, also known as @Hawksod, who during his days looking around various things in Windows developer kits, found out about hybrid x86 on ARM64 technology called CHPE, which he initially thought might be compound hybrid PE, and it's very, very, very interesting. Now, that 4 letters, CHPE. That in itself is, of course, an acronym, and the current theory is that the C stands for Cobalt, which is the code name, and that code name could be one of two things. It's either another Minecraft reference, or it comes from Cobalt, which is a game by Mojang, the company that makes Minecraft that Microsoft bought. So technically it's a third Microsoft game reference, which is interesting. The HP, which is particularly interesting, could, of course, be Hewlett-Packard, the same company that made many, many, many PCs, as well as the HP Elite X3. And the E possibly stands for emulation. Now, Vernon, if you feel like saying anything, what do you think about this?
Well, this is like a Windows Phone enthusiast's, let's call it wet dream. Okay, everyone is having this is what everyone wants. At least it's what everyone thinks they want. I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not saying it isn't valuable, but this is definitely good news in many ways. And we'll talk a bit more about HP a little bit later. But I think this is valuable, like I said, and this could be the ticket. This could be the key to the next mobile paradigm, or the next whatever the next mobile thing is.
Yeah,
this could be a huge component to that, or it could be really a very tiny niche, overpriced, something that they really invest too much money into, and it could completely flop. Of course, there's always that option, but yeah. I think this will be a good thing.
Yeah, and for those who don't know what the big things like ARM emulation would be, to put it simply, it would mean that devices running on ARM 64 processors, like phones, hint, would be able to run Win32 apps. You'd be able to run full desktop applications on your phone using the same technology that lets you run x86 apps on 64-bit operating systems. Like, say, you install a 32-bit program and you can run it on your 64-bit installation of Windows. That's because of Windows on Windows. Technology that you don't know about, but it changes your computing experience entirely. It's essentially just emulation for Win32 within Win64, and it, simply put, it just makes it so you can run that application. That's what this is going to be doing as well. If it happens, you will be able to run desktop applications on devices with ARM processors. Previous devices with ARM processors, aside from phones, happen to include devices like the Surface RT. And this is particularly interesting where you think of where Microsoft might use it. Now, if the HP is for Hewlett-Packard, then odds are might be a function that comes to the HP Elite X3, which has a huge focus on the enterprise and a huge focus on doing work on your phone, but it still cannot run desktop apps natively, which is a bit of a punch in the gut for it, something.
Now, if this is expected to be available with Redstone 3, I could make the argument, if we're going off of the traditional mobile release mentality, which we can't necessarily count on that anymore, but if we're going traditional on this, there will be a successor to the HP Elite X3, which they will have this enabled in that, and they would purposefully not enable it on the Snapdragon 820 running Elite X3. Now, we also know that this is a long play for them. They're rolling out this X3 rather slowly, and so that kind of throws the curveball in there. So I guess my opinion is kind of split 50-50 on if this capability will come to the X3.
Okay, yeah, that's reasonable. And Windows, as far as we know, for Windows Redstone 3, the current prediction is that you'll see it show up around fall 2017, although who knows how many insider builds will end up with it before then. And that's very, very interesting, particularly when you consider that Satya Nadella also recently said that Microsoft wants to build the ultimate mobile device. And he said this in a talk recently where he said that we don't want to be driven by just envy of what others have. The question is, what can we bring? That's where I look at any device form factor or any technology, even AI. We will continue to be in the phone market not as defined by today's market leaders, but by what it is that we can uniquely do in what is the most ultimate mobile device. And that contains some snippets that I think you could directly connect with this.
I just think the term most ultimate mobile device is a little bit clunky and odd. That's okay.
To be fair, phone by Google is worse.
Yeah. But this could be, well, it's really nice to see Satya say this publicly. And of course, everyone is, the memes are a flying already. I want to believe. And everyone wants to see this thing happen. And it sounds like it may. And of course, everyone's referring to the Surface Phone, which of course will not be called that. Surface Mobile. I will stand by that. I've been saying that for a while.
If anything, I believe that, by us saying that phone market not defined by today's standards might very well be a handheld device that can have phone functionality but is not technically marketed as a phone.
Well, look at the X3. I mean, it's barely marketed as a phone the way it is already.
Yeah, even more than that. Don't have it sold by carriers, is what I'm saying. Have something that is, I'm thinking like a new portable device that you can only run, say, Windows, heck, if they could just call it Windows Continuum or whatever, and you have a mobile device that maybe it'll have a screen on it, but the main focus of the device is that you hook it in to your monitor of choice or TV. You run desktop apps, you run modern apps, you run all the applications you need for work on that device. There is no need for your business to buy a fancy PC. They can just get one of these devices that I would assume would be reasonably priced for what it is. And you can run Edge, you can run Office, you can run whatever you need to work, and you can do it efficiently, as well as running some of your business's own Win32 programs on it to get your basic work done. And if needed, you can take your work home with you just by unhooking it and go. And there is so much potential for what that can be done there.
Well, I think we probably will just jump ahead to the rest of this, the different pieces of news that are related to this, I suppose.
Yeah, there's some more stuff that very well might be for Redstone 3 or other devices or beyond.
Since we were talking about the X3 and Continuum and things like that. I just want to add to what you're saying about HP having, the X3 being this 3-in-1 device. That's how they're marketing it. And so it's really odd to me how HP is doing this, but they must know something that we don't. Either they know something we don't, or they believe something we do not yet believe. And that's okay, because we do expect, as consumers, we get in this cycle of just a few months ahead, or maybe a year or so at a time. But these large companies, these corporations, really do need to think several years down the road. We've talked about this before. And so what is it they envision a 3-in-1 device doing or needing to do in 2 years, 3 years? And that's the nut to crack, I guess. And so, like I mentioned, I don't know if this is going to be a huge flop or if it's going to be, obviously I wouldn't know that, but I'm on the fence with how
I feel really that if Microsoft makes their own fancy device, or HP makes their device, I don't know, either one, and it is a PC in your pocket, I would assume that would be a good marketing term to use for it. I would expect it to do fairly well, because if Microsoft did it, I would expect it to be completely in the Surface line, maybe even use Surface Mini of all the names, just to resurrect that one, or Surface Portable, Surface Mobile, who knows? There's a lot of potential there, but it would become its own form factor, just as the Studio is about to become, just as Surface itself has become, and even the Hub is becoming its own form factor. Google's making a clone of it. When Microsoft makes something now, they make it for something that will become a popular form factor.
So the Elite X3 is not cheap, especially when you figure in the accessories. A Surface mobile device, we can't expect that to be cheap. That isn't what Microsoft has been doing, and I don't expect them to go cheap on it. Although it would be kind of cool to have a consumer focused device, 75%.
Yeah, I don't think it would be too hard to make a consumer focused one when you look at, like, say, the Intel Compute Stick, which is basically a full Windows PC on a USB size stick, or rather flash drive size stick. If you look at flash drive from a couple of years ago, when they were still long enough for you to actually be able to see on a desk. And that's around $130, $140 maybe. I could expect a low-end Surface Portable or Surface Mini or Surface Mobile to go for around that price.
Well, think about, I see where you're going with this, but I think having a computing stick is still so much different than having a mobile computer. And so you still need a display, you need decent battery in there, you need you probably still need a cellular. The SoC still needs to support cellular for a while. But and so I can't see it being $100. I'm thinking more this $400 to $600 range would be fantastic. But I think the money, I don't know really.
Yeah, I think for like the normal type, like if you had one that was just say the first introduction, the main model would probably be around $500, I believe. High end would go up to $1,000, but if there were to be a low end, fully consumer focused one, that would probably be around $130 to $200, I believe.
As far as a phone-like device?
Maybe not totally phone-like. Like, for who knows if this thing has a screen or not. If it does, then yeah, that definitely pushes up to $200 at least. But if not, that does shave quite a bit off it.
Yeah, maybe I'm not quite understanding the concept as well, because to be mobile, you still need that transitionary device, but that goes from between your lap dock and your desktop. You still need a screen, a mobile screen.
That's true.
6-inch display. So anyway, you're using the Idle 4S with Windows, which is Windows Mobile, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I understand, and
it's also capable of continuum support. Although I probably should pick up a dock for that, as Miracast is glitchy as can be.
But I love that the price of this is much more reasonable, and this could still be a thing. I haven't given up hope yet. I can see. How do I say this? The light at the end of the tunnel? We're going to go with that? I can see how HP can do great with the X3, and they can also have the X2 or something, or X3B, whatever they want to call it.
They'd probably call it the X4, I think.
Yeah, but if they made it a cheaper, dumbed down version, I should say. Probably the same chipset, but, smaller display and whatever. Anyway, and cheaper is the point. We're dwelling on this a little bit too much, but my point is that, especially with the emulation, potential emulation coming about a year from now, this could be and Satya's saying, this is going to be mobile as we don't envision it right now. That's really, really important. That's compelling, and that I can't wait to see what is next with this.
Yeah. And one of the other things that is in Windows Future is something that's been batted around for a while. It's called Microsoft Home Hub. We do not exactly know what Home Hub is yet, but we do know its name, and we can make plenty of guesses from that. But as time goes on, we learn a little bit more and more as information trickles in, and it's now appearing not only in various areas like device roadmaps. There's even more stuff about it being found out, like Walking Cat has... Yes, same guy again, has found more stuff about Home Hub. Looking inside of a manifest, there's resources for stuff like Home Hub buttons and whatnot, but their descriptions lead toward something called a family desktop, along with the family features on your PC, which make it easy to get to common tasks without logging in. You also get a quick view of all the things your family uses every day, like a shared calendar, lists, music, and more. And it seems as if it's like a shared guest account on a PC, but there's more to it. Like it says that, for example, you get shared calendar lists and get quick views of all the things your family uses together. And it's very, very interesting. But there's potential for this to be used in new products as well. Like, getting quick views of all that you use in your calendars. That could fit into something like the Windows 10 PC we covered a couple episodes back and spent maybe 20 minutes talking about. And this might end up in a device later, but currently it seems to be sitting on the roadmap for the Windows and Device group. As it was discovered that according to a LinkedIn post by a Microsoft Principal Hardware Engineering Manager, there's been products that might have been in development since 2014, which was all the way back when Windows 10 was still in very, very, very early stages. And the goals they listed that were started in October 2014 and carry on to the present, so that at that time that was 2 years, 2 months. They had to set up a hardware team and testing lab, each team members handpicked from previous Nokia Beijing Model Phone Development Center. All of them are top-level experts in different areas, including RF, baseband audio, display/touch, camera, mechanical, EMC, battery, and antenna, together with software team in Beijing, Munich, and Redmond. They've developed 2 product concepts. One is a far-field voice-interactive smart home hub. The other is an IoT connectivity platform solution. Which this becomes interesting. Once what Walking Cat found, that was add home hub button, which leads into family accounts. Then this is a interactive smart home hub. And that seems like 2 very, very, very different things. And I'm interested to figure out what on earth this actually is. Because we do see stuff on a software side, we do see stuff on a hardware side here, and it also says that both products stopped after first round of prototype build because of reorganization, but performance has been improved, performance has been proven, and the key concept of a smart home hub has been put into the Microsoft Windows and Device Group product roadmap. So as I'm understanding it here, this team, which was with Beijing, Munich, and Redmond, all working together, they put together 2 product concepts, one of those 2 being a home hub. And the concept of the home hub has been added to the to-do list, product roadmap for the Windows and Device Group. Which this is where it becomes interesting. Because, they had prototypes, which could very well vanish, but then it became good enough that it gets moved on to the higher-ups, and we might start seeing something from the company down the line. And their description of the Home Hub does sound a bit like an Amazon Echo. And that, again, I'm confused because of what happens once we get into the software side that's been found and this hardware side that we have little notes on. And I'm not sure. We very well might have just one thing that's like under an umbrella, perhaps? Home Hub might be a hub of various projects they're working on, and not just one thing. What do you think, Vernon?
Well, yeah, because Home Hub can run off of your Surface. It can run off of your regular desktop PC. As I envision it, the software is it's the software that makes it go, obviously. And so what that device looks like could be many different things. And quite literally, it wouldn't have to be built by Microsoft. It could just be something that other OEMs, could make, obviously.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I really don't have, to be honest, I don't have a great fleshed out opinion on this yet, because what we had initially envisioned is now kind of getting added to, and it just seems a little bit blurry still. We don't really, I don't really, who knows? Yeah. I guess like I said, my opinion isn't strong on this one yet.
Yeah, it could also go into that ultimate mobile device, though maybe that's I'd rather home, much less mobile, but I don't know. Microsoft's working on new devices for new form factors, and I want to see where that goes.
I wonder where they're going to stop, because we don't really expect them to make like a Surface Watch, right? We don't really expect them to make that would be really cool.
It's kind of funny once you mention that, because in my head I see a watch where you pop the face off and it's got a kickstand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we don't, what if they expanded on their Microsoft Sync system that's in the vehicle? What if they started going crazy with that? What if they did?
The thing about Microsoft and their innovation is that while it does take time, I don't want to see it stop, because what we are getting with stuff like the Studio and the Hub even is cool ideas that are redefining certain things. Like with the Surface, they set out to redefine what, at least the way I see it, with the original Surface, they decided to redefine both laptops and tablets. With the Surface Hub, they wanted to redefine how businesses and meetings went on. With the Surface Studio, they wanted to redefine the AIO market and also make it fully focused on creativity and artists as well. There's so much interesting stuff in there. So who knows what else they're going to try and redefine. There's just plenty of room. And,
but that's what I mean, is they're still not really a hardware company. I mean, they're far from it. It's a software company. And so doing this hardware, well, great to promote their software and actually making a profit occasionally, which is valuable. They actually, they've even made, they're releasing new Xbox hardware much more quickly at a higher pace than we had expected.
Actually, for the Xbox stuff, it actually isn't too fast, I don't believe. Actually, Project Scorpio is, but for
how long was the 360 around, and then the Xbox One, and then
what happened with the 360 was that, like, for its hardware revisions, the original release was 2005. The first slim model came out in 2010, I believe. Don't quote me on that though. And then its final revision was 2000 and either 12 or 13. So the first change was 5 years. The original Xbox came out 2004, so then 2004 to 5, you got... Oh, wait, no, not 2004. Original Xbox was 2001, only one hardware model. Xbox 360, 2005, its first revision, 2010. So then you've got 4-year jump, then a 5-year jump, although that revision was just a slim model. And then the Xbox One came out, I believe, it was 2013? Let me look. Let's see what. Yeah, it came out 22nd of November 2013. So
then the One S.
Yeah, so that's
this year, and then now Scorpio, which
might be
not
next,
necessarily console, but
yeah.
but these are not the One S and Scorpio are not replacing the previous version.
Scorpio,
or it's not.
They say Scorpio won't, but the thing is, I can very easily see it doing that if it's priced properly.
But what I mean, I don't expect them to stop selling the previous version. They're hitting different price points and different performance points.
The way consoles are really viewed is that, like, for one to replace the other, it's that it plays games that the other won't. And that's basically the term of replacement when it comes to the console world. If one thing can run more stuff than the other and is newer, it's replacement. Scorpio, they say, is not a replacement. It's just a high-end, powerful, high-end graphical version of the Xbox One, which I do not believe it is not going to replace it. It's just like how, for example, Nintendo originally said that the Nintendo DS would not replace the Nintendo Game Boy line. That, of course, there has not been any new Game Boy for the past decade, and actually maybe 12 years, something, I don't know. But we have not been seeing any new Game Boys for a very long time. These companies, well, not these companies, but companies can say, we're not going to replace that just to keep their cards open. But in the end, it very well might and has a high chance to replace what came before it. So yeah, if it does end up replacing it, that would be pretty quick jump ahead for the console lineup. But it has been growing smaller and smaller in between revisions over these past couple of decades.
Well, I didn't mean to pull us too far into the weeds, but my point was that they're broadening out and just doing more and more of these devices, which is a little bit surprising, but it does seem to be working.
Yeah.
So how do you really, argue with that? So who knows what they're going to do with Surface Mobile. We'd love to see Surface Watch, like I said, this Home Hub thing, whether it's going to be a Microsoft device or a third party, whatever.
Or even just software, who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. But it's exciting nonetheless, and that is, well, it's exciting.
Yeah. And being excited is pretty fun. And speaking of people who should be excited, Surface Studios have begun to ship. So if you have $3,000 and pre-ordered one, it is headed your way right now. Probably. Now, who knows if it's going to arrive this week because we have Thanksgiving on the way and whatnot. But you should be very excited for it, and it should be there soon. Not really much to say, I don't think, because yeah, it's shipping. Yeah. Something else that is going to ship in a while, actually, I'm not sure how soon, but the Mi Mix smartphone from Xiaomi. I hope I'm saying this right.
Xiaomi, I think.
Yeah, Xiaomi. Well, their Mi Mix or Mi Mix, I don't even know if I'm saying that one right,
I think it's Mi Mix.
Okay, Mi Mix. It's going to come preloaded with a variety of Microsoft apps, some of them being the Office Suite, which you'd be expecting. But it's also going to come with Cortana, which this is going to be... I'm not sure if it's the first time that an Android phone would come preloaded with Cortana, but if it is, this is getting interesting. Because this is apparently a deal for multiple Xiaomi phones. Oh boy, how did you say that?
It's not quite Xiaomi, it's more Xiaomi.
Xiaomi.
Sort of. Not quite as... I don't know. I'm not the best one for this.
Yeah.
A cross between a SH and a Z.
And that's
Say it quickly.
Okay. I give up. Whatever.
Xiaomi.
This has been Andy's Chinese lesson for the day.
Mandarin. But yeah. I hope someone corrects me.
I hope someone corrects me. Anyways,
let's go with it.
Their phones will be preloaded with a variety of Microsoft apps, and that's Office Suite, Skype, and now Cortana. And this Mi Mix is a very, very, very interesting phone for a variety of other reasons, but for the reasons relevant to our interests. It's a non-Microsoft phone that comes with Cortana built in. Now, Microsoft did team up with CyanogenMod, which is a ROM that can be loaded by the user onto a variety of Android phones. It doesn't come preloaded on that many, I believe. There's maybe one or two out there in the wild that run it by default, but majority of the time you will be the one putting it on there. It does have full Cortana integration built into it. And that's interesting, and I do wonder if they're going to have any deep integration with it on here, or if it's just going to be, Cortana's pre-installed, have at it.
Well, this happens a lot in the U.S. as far as, especially Verizon and AT&T. They're going to pre-install as much bloatware on there as they can. And to be honest, give them credit, it has died down a bit the past year or two. I'll give them 2 years, where there's been less bloatware on there.
To also be fair, that for the sake of for Android phones at least, you can fully disable all of it or uninstall it.
Or with Windows Phone, you can actually uninstall it, like all of it.
Yeah.
And you know, to give credit to Apple with the recent iOS 10 point, whichever one it is, update, I was actually able to uninstall at least half of the native apps on there, which were not able to be uninstalled earlier. That was a huge, like, surprise and a breath of fresh air, and really, I guess it's great to give Windows Phone credit for that. If it's really who's supposed to get the credit for that?
I don't know, but I'm fully ready to give Windows Phone credit for that.
Because that was
Android
2010.
Android has disable, iOS has whatever, and they've just added it. And then Windows Phone, it's been there for a long, long time.
Now, actually, what's funny is that recently there are a few more apps on Windows 10 Mobile that you cannot uninstall. I should have looked at this more carefully ahead of time. I hadn't expected to talk about this. But, like maybe gadgets, I don't think you can uninstall. See, I'm just off the top of my head here.
Probably the same system apps as Windows 10 or similar.
There's some Windows other stuff in here I do not use that are not.
Windows 10 PC has a special classification called system apps, and those are apps you cannot uninstall. They're ones like, for example, the Xbox app, the ones that have deep integration into the system that you cannot fully remove.
So in this case, yeah, on mobile, both Xbox and Weather cannot be uninstalled. Wallet cannot be. Well, I can see a wallet would be on there.
I can't uninstall Weather on PC either.
There was one other. I don't recall what it is now, but so it's so silly to see how Windows Phone had been leading the way, at least in many people's opinions, from a UI standpoint and a usability standpoint, and then that they kind of jumped on I talk about this all the time, the hamburger button bandwagon, and now they're lagging behind because people are already over that phase in a true hamburger button manner. They're past that, and now Windows Phone still has that, and it's whatever. I'm not talk about something else, I guess. Yeah. It's just bothersome, but it is very, very, very cool to see Cortana baked in. Well, I should say pre-installed on the Xiaomi phones.
I hope it's truly baked in, because that would be nice. Even though I don't think I'll get a Mi Mix, because it's, aside from the fact that I already have enough phones, its entire design.
You can never have enough phones. You can never have too many phones, Andy.
Yeah, I've learned that I have too many devices for the amount of space I have available.
But, to finish up on my thought, though, that some of the Microsoft apps being pre-installed through on what was it, the Galaxy S5, I think it was, which had Word, the Office suite basically pre-installed.
Yeah, I don't believe that Office. I don't believe they still do that, because, like, for example, my S7, I know that I had to install Office on it, although I got mine through Verizon. Maybe it's different somewhere else.
Well, that was my point, is that Samsung itself had actually stated that. They announced that these would be pre-installed. And then it was Verizon, in this case, I think it was the S5, that just didn't have them. Like, oh, whoops, I guess we forgot, or something. And that really kind of, bothered me. But anyway, the carriers have too much power with this, and I think it's great that they're pre-installed, but it really doesn't mean much if you can just uninstall it anyway. But it's a step in the right direction.
Speaking of steps somewhere, that was a good transition, maybe, in another world. Anyways, the Alcatel Idol 4S has overtaken the HP Elite X3 during its first month of availability. This is pretty cool. I say this looking over at my Alcatel as it charges. But, yeah. Let me quickly take a look here at the stats, unless you want to.
I will pull it up now, I suppose. I think I have it here.
All right, actually, I have it pulled up too. This data comes from AdDuplex, which previously, not more than previously, they are a ad provider for Windows Phone apps, and they have been able to pull up plenty of handy data throughout the years for stuff like device usage, market share for operating system versions, and more. And it appears that the new Alcatel phone is at number 16 on the top spot, where the Elite X3 is at number 19.
There's not a lot of Windows mobile devices out there anymore, obviously.
Yeah.
And so it being that far down the list is still too bad, but it's proving a point, which I started to make before, that the Elite X3 is not marketed that well, and it certainly isn't hasn't been placed in a good price range right now for what it can do compared to what people actually would be buying.
It's priced too high for enthusiasts, and I think that's a big chunk of it. Because with Windows, I don't want to say certain things, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. But Windows Phone is mostly there's two kinds. Windows Phone is a enthusiast-driven platform, and it's also a platform for people who really like cheap phones. Like, seriously, I know plenty of people who can't tell a Surface from an iPad who all have Windows phones because they were priced so well, although that was from the holdovers from the Windows 8 era, regardless.
I do think the latter category does have a much larger percentage of the market share, of the Windows Phone market share, than the enthusiast.
Especially since, if you look at the current chart of Windows 10 mobile devices, if you look at the 640 and 650 combined, they are about 48% of market share. Almost half of it is Lumia 640s and Lumia 650s. Which doesn't fall... I don't think that falls too much into the enthusiast category.
No, not at all. And like I've said before, I mean, I purchased close to a dozen of those Lumia 640s for friends of mine and friends' family, and just to resell and to play around with. And when I worked at, retail a few hours a week, we sold those phones all the time, just tons of them, because they were $50 or less. And people were satisfied enough with them, and especially for what you could do with it. And this is going way back. We don't need to talk about this old phone that much, but in its heyday, it was an incredible value. And many, many people, my wife, my daughter, my mom, actually, my sister-in-law, they all use this phone and are certainly happy with it. They just, they're not enthusiasts.
Yeah.
But the enthusiast market obviously has a much bigger, I should say a much louder voice, naturally. And so that is, it really does, I'm not sure, because the enthusiasts want to have the best thing, but they also want to get the new thing, which often is good enough, and they'd rather do that more often than have one big purchase, $1,200 purchase for the X3 and kit, and keep it for 3 years. So that's challenging. Plus, there is the carrier subsidization that is helpful, but less relevant for enthusiasts. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to see what HP does for their next round, whether they're going to go a lot cheaper.
Excuse me.
Or not. We'll see.
Yeah. And as for some of the particular percentage stats here, actually it seems that some of these market shares are just so small that they aren't even showing up in the pie graph here, which is a little sad, but that also includes the Idol 4S and the Elite X3. They are just way too far down for it to even show up, I'm afraid. But regardless, good phones.
I should mention that Alcatel doesn't have just one phone in that.
Oh, yeah, that is true. They had
the Alcatel One Touch Fierce XL has 5.5% of the market, which is pretty interesting. That's been out about a year or so.
Yeah, and they actually pulled it from AT&T, or my bad. They pulled it from T-Mobile in preparation for the launch of the Idol, which it's kind of nice to see some of these third-party phones in here.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I think Windows phones, I still don't think third-party devices. I think, okay, Lumia, which is from a past era, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Oh well. Anyways,
so I think it's really saying something right now that T-Mobile cared enough to put the put this new Alcatel phone on their platform carrier in their repertoire, and it's really
T-Mobile seems to be the place to go for Windows Phone users.
Yeah, but AT&T has always been a better place for Windows Phone anyway. It's really because that 640, the 650 that's through Cricket, the 640 XL, 950 obviously, those are all directly through AT&T.
And speaking of a phone you can buy through AT&T, and also what we were just talking about, the HP Elite X3, which has been mentioned quite a bit here, HP is making the business case for the X3, which I think I can let you handle.
Well, yeah, I touched on it earlier, and I don't really know who this. I mean, they're telling us two different things here, and that's okay. That's fine. That's good. They're saying that first of all, this is the phone. This is the computing device to get for the regular people in an office, that you could do all the things. You don't have to be syncing between different devices. You have the one single device that is their mobile device, and it is their desktop device for mid-range resource intensive things. And then the next video, the different slant they put on it, is focused more towards the executive, who
not just the executive, actually, though. There's also some stuff for the IT administrator where they talk about how it simplifies device management.
Yeah, the post that we have on the site shows two different videos. The first video talking about how it is for the regular folks at a business, at a company enterprise, and how, of course, it can be controlled. Like you said, IT has shouldn't have a difficult time dealing with this. And then, of course, the next video talks about the executive and how his same thing. He uses the laptop. He uses his desktop, of course, the Continuum, and how everything all syncs together, or it is together. It's literally on the same device. So they obviously are putting some money into this. We've seen more than a few different videos from this. Not that videos are incredibly expensive, but they care. They're putting marketing behind this, and
they are trying to make a dent in the enterprise, and I hope they do, because it's a cool concept in my mind.
Well, I think it is the right concept. I think it is the future. I'm just surprised. I think, like I said, we're just too much tuned into the here and now and the short cycle, whereas these big corporations are obviously seeing the long game.
Yeah, and that's reasonable.
It's a bit of a hump for us to get over, I think.
Yeah. And, speaking of things that are pretty pricey, there is now a deal which is a little abnormal for us. When I love
this one.
When I talk about Xbox deals, I normally think, okay, you can get $50 off a console, or you can get an extra game packed in. This is a little different. If you buy $1,000 worth or more of diamonds from Hellsberg Diamonds, you get a free Xbox One S Minecraft bundle, which is normally $300, included with your purchase if you use the promo code Xbox at checkout. This one is one where I get what they're going for, but it still seems weird, and Vernon has much more to say about it that is informed than me.
Well, my level of informed is basically because I've been married, and I can. At first, this struck me as odd, but then it really didn't take long to understand why. This time of year, this is something. There's all kinds of like jewelry commercials and crap on TV, and they're not necessarily marketing to the women who want this jewelry. They're marketing to the men, the husbands, who need to go out and get this for them. And I hate being marketed to this way, and that's fine. I get it. Just like they sell all the different car commercials with the stinking bow on it, and they come outside to the driveway or the garage or something, and it's snowing on Christmas morning. And here's your new car.
Begins with K.
Well, yeah, that too. And it just, he went to Jared, that kind of crap. But I see why they're doing this, because it is a little bit more incentive. It's actually, this is horrible, but if I were to go spend $1,000 on diamonds for my wife, I would not have to spend a dime on myself for an Xbox One S. And it would look incredibly selfless of me that I'm, investing in these diamonds for my wife. Now, my wife would never let me spend $1,000 on diamonds for her. She's way too practical for that, and I love her to death for it. But I see why this promo exists, and it's incredibly pathetic in the materialistic manner that we live in as Americans. But I get it. It is what it is.
You see, I'm glad you're able to bring the husband perspective into this, because I look at it and I think, okay, spending $1,000 on something, that is for someone who is far above my pay grade, and I'm not going to get it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the $1,000 on diamonds isn't. I don't want to say it's cheap or an easy thing to do, but around Christmas, that is, like, we just bought a couch, and it wasn't. I don't think it was $1,000, but like, these are like household investments almost. It's just kind of I don't want to say it's the price you pay for being married. That's really, it puts a negative spin on it, but that is just part of what it is. Just like having 2 or 3 vehicles in a house is part in a household is what it is. We're really going social here and socioeconomic, but enough of that, I suppose.
Welcome to Economic Power User. Today we're going to talk about Excel and the Microsoft Money app.
All right, Andy, why don't you finish that last one, and then I will finish up with the second to last one.
So today on the Economic User Power, today on the Economic Power User podcast, we're going to talk about how you can ignore everything your boss says and just play Solitaire. Because Microsoft has released the Microsoft Solitaire collection, which is, Solitaire, available previously for Windows 10 and Windows 10 Mobile, and also Windows 8 devices as well. It's now available on iOS and Android, and at long last, you can play an actual good Solitaire game on one of those devices, because the previous apps I found to procrastinate with have been pretty crappy. And, yeah, it's Microsoft Solitaire on any device. It's really not that big news, unless you're someone like me who ends up playing Spider Solitaire for a solid 2 hours every day.
Yeah, I did play Solitaire when I was on the plane last. I don't remember where I was going, but yeah, that was kind of fun. Hadn't played that in a decade or so. This last one, a little bit of a rant here, folks. So, Xbox emails people. Okay, they send out different promos, holidays, stuff, hey, buy our new game, that kind of thing. Well, Dead Rising 4, and I know almost nothing about Xbox, obviously. It's a game with zombies. And
that's pretty accurate.
Okay, and so the headline in here, the subject line for this email, is meant to sound like a zombie. Obviously, zombies are fictional, so we don't actually know what zombies make, what noises, sounds they make. But that was the point. It was supposed to sound like a grunty roar or something, growl, something like that. Well, if your imagination went wild, it could be considered, you might possibly think that this would be a racial slur. And some people went nuts over it. Most people didn't. But nonetheless, Microsoft did respond officially apologizing. Hey, we made a mistake. It wasn't intended, blah, blah, blah. We promise to do better next time. First of all, people, if you read that and you, I don't know, thought that they were trying to use a racial slur, Microsoft was trying to use a racial slur to sell you a Dead Rising game, you are crazy. Okay? Why on earth would Microsoft marketing want to do that? First of all, how would it help sell this game? Except now we're talking about it.
I'm just going to interject here and think that I don't believe anyone actually complained, as I didn't see any complaints, but what I think that what Microsoft did here by apologizing was that they covered their bases after sending out an email and then realizing seconds later, okay, someone has a chance to interpret it like this. I don't believe anyone has. They're just being careful, which is something that as a big company you kind of have to do in today's world.
That's fair. And Andy warned me not to talk about this, so I'm taking the whole hit on this, and that's fine. My point is, in no way would Microsoft want to offend people, and even if they actually, the racial slur was actually in there, it would not have been intentional, and it would not have been in the best interest of the company. And Microsoft obviously their goal is to make money. So even if it was in there, it was a rogue somebody or whatever, and people getting all triggered on this, as few as they may have been, is ridiculous. And this is kind of systemic. This is one of I think this is where I'll cut it off now. This is where I
think we're getting into more of the social stuff.
I'm done now. But it is newsworthy if you find that type of thing interesting.
I personally find it interesting as someone who is interested in marketing. When you look at what a company has to do to be careful, even something innocent might be taken the wrong way. And the question is, do you wait for someone to complain, or do you preemptively say, well, okay, don't complain. No, this was a mistake. Someone thought it would be fun, and it didn't come out the way it seemed in their head.
Mm-hmm. So they did the right thing in responding right away with it.
Yeah, and I don't believe anyone was actually mad over it, because it's such a small and silly thing that I think that the only person who saw it and thought that it was that before being told that it might have looked like that was some Microsoft content review guy who wakes up in the morning, he checks his email, and he just screams in horror before sending a email to whoever it was that originally made it. And that's basically my thoughts on the matter.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's about it, and my voice is basically gone.
So I'll steal the outro, which I only did once before. Anyways, thank you for listening to the MS Power User podcast. You can follow the site on Twitter at MS Power User, and you can find out about all the great Microsoft news as it happens by checking us out there. You can also follow us on Twitter on our personal accounts at VernonEL for Vernon, and you can follow me on Twitter at FusionFan45. Vernon tweets about cool stuff like real-world things, whereas you'll find me tweeting about Halo and giant robots. You know which one to pick.
Fair enough. Have a great week, everyone.